close, the second part of the mimer, where there's a mimer within the mimer. Right? And that starts with the inyan of Tefillah L'Moshe. Right, is Ois Dalet. But first we have to finish Ois Gimel. And Ois Gimel, so the Rebbe has explained to us, we have a basic issue. Our basic issue is, why is Paraduma the klal of all the Torah? Right? And how is it shaykh to Moshe? So we said as a result of the fact, once we explained how it is the klal of all the Torah, and when we said that we meant klal of all the mitzvahs, it's shaykh to Moshe on two different levels. One is that mitzvahs are shaykh to Mesiras Nefesh, and Moshe is the makar, the source of our Mesiras Nefesh. And the second was that mitzvahs are all about Kabbalah Zol. And Moshe is the source of that Kabbalah Zol. Zichra Teres Moshe Avdi, Eved. Right? The footnote that we didn't learn, footnote 21, the footnote itself is not particularly difficult, but it raises a question that is very hard to answer. And the footnote simply explains what's the advantage of the second reason over the first reason, such that the Rebbe brings it second. And there the Rebbe explains that the advantage of the second reason is that it affects the mitzvah itself, as opposed to simply the preparation for the mitzvah. By Mesiras Nefesh, so the way the Rebbe explained Mesiras Nefesh, it's a preparation for the mitzvah. That which helps you overcome your Yetzer, and this is based on Tanya, Perek Chafei, that which helps you overcome your Yetzer, the fact that you realize you'll be Mesiras Nefesh for this, so certainly you can overcome this particular distraction called this desire for whatever it happens to be, and you'll perform the mitzvah. But it doesn't affect the mitzvah itself, whereas Kabbalah Soul is the oifen in which you do the mitzvah itself. So that's definitely understandable. And so that's the advantage of the second pshat. And that is the pshat that we basically learn throughout the whole mimer. But that raises a question, and I don't have an answer to that question. Mashpim talk about it, but so everybody has an answer, but it's a difficult question. So then, what's the advantage of the first pshat over the second pshat? Meaning there are two pshat, and that the Rebbe doesn't deal with in the Ois, and that would be that's something that just begs explaining. Okay. We're answering the question that since Moshe Rabbeinu knew the Tam of Para, which we learned about at the beginning of Gimel, so then how is Moshe the source of our koyach to serve the Eibishter on the level of Gezeder Chek Hakakti Gezeder Huka Hakakti Gezeder Gezarti, that I've established laws and listen to me? How does Moshe give us that koyach when Moshe himself, for all intents and purposes, no such thing as a koyach? And the Rebbe is explained as follows. We might think, we're in the middle of this explanation, near the end of it, we're going to ask a question, not so much a question, we're going to say that we still require more biur, and that's going to be the rest of the Bible. We generally think that chukim and mishpatim are two different things. A mishpat is a mitzvah that has tam. A chayk, if the mitzvah doesn't have tam, so then there's something else, and that's called a chayk. And never the twain shall meet. Right? So that means if for Moshe Rabbeinu the chayk is a mishpat, so then I don't understand how he can give us koyach for the avodah of a chayk. That was our question. The answer has told us that we have to understand chayk and mishpat, and this is why we're saying that the Rebbe is very much the home address for the discussion of chayk and mishpat in Chassidus. That chayk and mishpat are not two completely different realities in the gavra, in the person. Because what do we say? If we're saying they're two separate realities, we're saying as follows. If a person understands the halacha, so then that is called a mishpat. And if the person doesn't understand the halacha, then it's called the mitzvah, then it's called a chayk. And therefore we have a question by Moshe Rabbeinu, there's such thing as a mishpat. There's such thing as a chayk, so it's all a mishpat. Moshe Rabbeinu is different than us. Well, that's not the way the Rebbe explained things to us yesterday. What the Rebbe explained to us at length yesterday, in depth, not so much at length, but in depth, is that chayk and mishpat are different aspects of the same mitzvah. It's not that it's two different people, so to speak. It's not talui in the way we could say in learning. It's not dependent on the gavra, on the person. What does the person understand? There is such a reality in Chayk and Mishpat. There's a beautiful, based Thomas, we have to say something in the name of the Frierdiker Rebbe. The Frierdiker Rebbe says a beautiful pshat in Imbechu Kaisei Telechu. Right? Famous pasuk in Chumash. But if you think about the pasuk, it's a rather difficult pasuk because there really seems to be a contradiction between the beginning and the end. Imbechu Kaisei, Chayk is Telechu. You should go, you should move, you should progress. You can't progress in a Chayk. Either you do it or you don't. What's a chayk? I can progress in understanding. I can have a deeper understanding, yet deeper than that. And hopefully we do. So relative to mishpat of mitzvahs, relative to the cognitive understanding of what's going on, so then we can progress. We understand more, we understand more, and we understand more. Kabbalah soul, sort of black and white. Either you do it or you don't. Either you listen or you don't. Right? Are you a soldier? Aren't you a soldier? Wait, sort of a soldier. No, if he's sort of a soldier, he's not a soldier. I listen most of the time. That's not a soldier. That's not the way it works, right? If you're a soldier, so then everything you're told to do, you do, and there's no questions. So that's Kabbalah soul. So there's no progress in that. There might be progress leading to that, I understand, but it doesn't say, look, walk towards that, so you'll get to that point. No, it says, walk in my statutes. We don't walk in my statutes. We don't walk in them. We stand in them. We're in one place. Either you're there or you're not. That's the question the Frierdiker Rebbe asked. He gives an amazing answer. And this is relative, on a certain degree, to the first level of understanding of Chayk and Mishpat, which is still true. That there might be a level in each and every one of us where we don't understand, therefore something's a Chayk, but then we come to an understanding, so now we brought it into the realm of Mishpat. And that's exactly what the Frierdiker Rebbe says. He says an amazing thing. What does it mean, that which is l'mayla mitam v'das for me, I'll call it a chayk. Okay, so I understand the here, and so this is a chayk. What if I understand this? What if I've come to a deeper understanding? So where's the chayk? Where's that level of mayla mitam v'das? It's moved. It's here. Right? Oh, and what if I come to an even deeper understanding of things? So then the chayk is, which is really quite an amazing idea. What's the Rebbe saying? Frierdiker Rebbe, right? It's was saying something in the name of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Right? That the idea of being b'chukas telechu, the pnimius of it. I mean, simple pshat in the Torah is it says learn Torah, right? Amol b'Torah. It's not mitzvahs because the next line is mitzvahs tishmaru. Right? So what does Rashi say? He brings the medrash. Amol b'Torah, to learn Torah with hard work, right? To really expend effort in learning Torah. That's in B'chukas telechu. But in Aveda, so the Frierdiker Rebbe says it means that by virtue of the fact that I'm constantly pushing the frontiers of my intellectual understanding, that means that which is l'mayla v'tam v'das is also becoming more sophisticated. Meaning, to put it in our terms, there is no way in the world that anybody in this room should believe that God created the world. God forbid. You should know He did and how. That's not a munah for a chassid. That's das. You know exactly how it happened. You know what tzimtzum is. You know what our mamala is. You know what our seviv is. You can't prove it in a laboratory. Okay, Seder. I would think we talked about this yesterday. Like, I think we all say we know there's something called love. I can't prove it in a laboratory, but I know there's love. I don't have to believe in love. Why? Because I've experienced love. Hopefully, we all know very, very well how creation of the world works. But there'll be levels of godly reality that are shaykh to amunah. It's beyond my tam v'das. Hopefully that's etzem, and only etzem. Because only about etzem does it say leis machshava tvisa bechlal, that no thought can comprehend you at all. Right? Every other level of elokus can be understood on some level within the context of our intellect, not because we figured it out, because the Ebshter gave it to us. He explained it to us. It's in the Torah, it's in Chassidus, it's in Kabbalah, Chassidus, etc. So those things we can know. To the extent that we can know them, right? How do I know infinite reality? But Seder should be able to talk about infinite reality. Why not talk? We're going to talk in the next paragraph. We're going to have a serious discussion about what it is between Mamala and Sefer. Das Tachta and Das Elyon. Whoever's going to take us there? What? Okay, that's not Emunah. Chas v'sholom. That should be L'mayla Min Hadas. Sefer should not be L'mayla Min Hadas. Sefer should be part of your conscious reality. Why? Because you learn Chassidus. What is l'mayla min hadas for many of us? Not all of us. Many of us, I'm just including myself, how my car engine works. That's the Myla Das. I haven't got a clue. I mean, I know there's something called the gas, and the gas goes in, and somehow it combusts, and then but I haven't got a clue how it works. I really don't have a clue. I'm not proud of being an ignoramus, but I don't have a clue how it works, and I'm at the mercy of the guy who runs the garage. If he tells me there's a problem, I can't argue with him. So what do you mean? How can you say there's a problem? Look over there in the engine. I can't do that. So it's all a muna. It's all a muna. Das. If I were to sit down and learn how car engines work, so then it would be Das. I wouldn't have to believe him and trust him. I could do it myself. Okay. So hopefully, relative to the Abisha created the world, I believe the Abisha created the world. I mean, I know the Abisha created the world. Can you talk about it? Tell you exactly how it works, what Tzimtzum is, and what Seviv is, and what Mamali is, and how there's 4 worlds, and the difference between the 4 worlds. I should be able to talk about that, and if I can't, so sit down and learn more Chassidus. And then you'll be able to talk about those things the same way you can talk about where Kraft Stadium is relative to Gansak. It depends where you're looking from, right? If you're looking from here, it's on the right. If you're looking from the other side of the hill, it's on the left. Okay. So the Rebbe is explaining the difference between the way of looking at the world, looking at mitzvahs, as chukim and mishpatim being 2 different levels relative to the same person, which is how we just explained it relative to Friedrich Rebbe, and that's true. It's not that that's not true, but there's a deeper aspect to it all, which is what the Rebbe is going to reveal to us here. He did yesterday. We're just reviewing it and making sure we understand it's, the pneumius of what the Rebbe said to us yesterday. Right? And that's all, again, that's mitzad the gavra, that's mitzad the person. Where I'm holding in my level of understanding. So what's l'may l'mina das for me? So that's called a chayk. But then there's the objective reality of every mitzvah. And the objective reality of every mitzvah is both. Every mitzvah is both a chayk and a mishpat. That's what the Rebbe has been telling us. That's one of the chidushim that we learned in this mimer. It's not a chiddush in this mimer. It doesn't come from this mimer, but that's something the Rebbe has taught us. That might be a chiddush for us. That every mitzvah is both the ratzon of the Eibishter and the chokhmah of the Eibishter. What about a mitzvah that you and I call a chayk? Where's the chokhmah in that? So where is the chokhmah? Where does it start, the chokhmah of that mitzvah? What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything, because ratzon's the Eibishter, chokhmah is the Eibishter. That's like my knowledge of a car. Atzilus. Chokhmah Atzilus. So we learn. Chokhmah Atzilus. That's where it starts, so to speak. That's where the chokhmah of the Torah is. What might happen relative to certain mitzvahs? That level of godly intellect will descend down, that idea, which can only be understood in godly intellect, could descend down and be expressed in a state in which human intellect can understand it. And that's what you and I call a mishpat. But where did that mishpat start, so to speak? In the realm of chokhmah, of seichel, same place, chokhmah datzilus. And then it emanated downward into, there are certain mitzvahs where, in the language that we've seen in the Maimon, the language that you have to learn, it's mislavesh in chokhmah. First of all, the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mislavesh in chokhmah. The ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, expresses itself in the wisdom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in seichel. And that seichel will emanate downward into, it'll even be mislavesh in seichel and aishi, human intellect, so you and I can understand it. Fine. We talked yesterday about the fact that there's certain things that the language is going to be leni slavshu kolkach b'nivroi. What's kolkach? I can understand it spiritually, but I can't understand it in a laboratory. Shatnez was our mashal for that. Right? I can explain to you LP ruchnius why wool and linen don't go together, because they represent 2 different levels of ruchnius. On the ruchnistic level, they don't go. In Gashmias, nothing seems to happen. It's not like when you put fire and water together; those don't go. One of them disappears. Right? If there's nothing separating them, the fire disappears. If there's a pot separating them, the water disappears. They cannot exist together. Right? Okay. It doesn't look that way with wool and linen. Not down here. Okay, so I understand if you told me, well, don't mix water and fire. That doesn't work. I can understand that. I see how that doesn't work. Right? But I don't understand how down here how wool and linen doesn't work together. Seems fine. Okay, the Eibishter imposed that on us, but we can explain it up Epinemius, and we did yesterday. Okay. So once we say that really it's just two different aspects of the same mitzvah, so it's not a function of two different people. The same person will relate to that mitzvah in two different ways. The person will relate to the mitzvah as a chayk, don't murder. You and I can relate to that as the chayk of it, chukas chakakti gezeda gezarti, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us to. And you and I can also relate to the mishpat of it. Makes sense to me. Right? Okay. And our avodah is to also relate to the chayk. That's an avodah. That's something that I have to learn in order to appreciate. Now, one other point that's an important point. The only reason that human intellect understands don't murder is because the Torah calls it a mishpat. It's not that the Torah calls it a mishpat because human intellect understands it. Because the Torah is the source of us. We're not the source of the Torah. The Eibishter looked in the Torah and created us. That means we mirror the Torah. That means the fact that don't murder is called a mishpat in the Torah is the reason that human intellect understands that intuitively. And the fact that shatnez is called a chayk, that's the reason that you and I do not understand that intuitively. Which is really very, very important to appreciate. Don't murder is not a mishpat because we understand it. We understand it because it's a mishpat. So if the Eibishter were to call shatnez a mishpat, human intellect would understand shatnez on some level. Whatever, how? I don't know. I mean, it'd be hard to imagine what that would look like because our reality doesn't look that way. But say that. Page Shin Yud Zayin. So, okay. But the Rebbe's not talking about that here, but that just is a very, very important point to appreciate in terms of how the Torah defines things. The Torah defines things, and that definition is what creates reality. It's not the other way around. The Torah is not reacting to our reality. The Torah is the source of our reality. Istakla b'raisu bara alma. The Eibishter looked in the Torah and created the world. That means the fact that the Torah calls lo yisignav a mishpat means that you and I intuitively understand not to steal. And the fact that the Torah calls paraduma chayk, so then we don't get it. And if the Torah would say again, how I'd understand, I have no clue, because I don't understand it. But if the Torah were to say, Zeis mishpat hapara, so then we don't understand paraduma somehow. And it wouldn't be, and what's important to know, it wouldn't be only a function of Chachma Datzilus. The Chachma of paraduma would descend down and be mislavish in human second. Somehow, how? I don't know. I mean, you can't imagine what that would look like. Right? But everything is just a function of the Ratzon of the Eibishter, and that's just an important point in life in general. We have to understand that every single state of reality that exists, including the highest states of godly light, only exist because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants them to. There's only one state of reality that is what's called Mechuyev Ametzias. It must be, and that's called the Etzem of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Every other state of reality is a function of the Eibishter's Ratzon. Why did the Eibishter want this level, this level, this level, and this level of light? They are not necessary. They are a function of his desire. He wanted them to be. There might be a perfectly good reason. But, so when you and I in Chassidus say, well, there has to be this in order for there to be this, well, that's not absolutely true. That's true within the context of the Eibishter's desire that in order for there to be this, there had to be this. But that's not absolutely the case. That's only, it is the case relative to the fact that the Eibishter created it that way. And so you and I talk about it that way, and the Rebbeim will talk about it that way in my mind, that without this, we couldn't have this state. Okay, but that's only because the Kodesh Baruch Hu wanted it that way, and don't think, chas v'shalom, for one macrosecond, that a Kodesh Baruch Hu couldn't create reality B without reality A. He is unlimited, he can do whatever he wants, and you could go from Atzmus to a snail on a sidewalk leaving goo, without anything in between. Could he do that? Of course he could do that. He can do whatever he wants. Right? How do you do that? I don't know. That'd be a whole new Torah. It'd be a whole new reality. How would we understand that? Well, that's actually understood. So this is one of the reasons that he did it the way he did it. So you and I can actually have something to talk about. that you and I can actually talk about creation and higher levels and low. No, that you and I can involve ourselves in melukat. Because otherwise, if it was just atzmus to the slug, so there's nothing to talk about. Right? Atzmus is atzmus. I don't understand it. The slug, fat. Right? As one of the people who ran the office said, early guy, he was a former student, and then he started running our office, and he was such a character. He said, what do you learn from a slug? You have to learn from everything the Eibishter created. What do you learn from a slug? Wherever you've been, leave an impression. Can't argue with that. I mean, there's hopefully a positive impression. I don't know whether the slug does that.
Amen.
Okay. So once it's now not a function of me as opposed to you, that which is a choik for me could be a mishpat for you, but every single mitzvah is both choik and mishpat. So then every single one of us deals with the need to relate to the idea of chukas hakakti or zeder gazarti, the idea of Kabbalah soul of the choik, in every mitzvah. So Moshe Rabbeinu also does. And the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu understands paraduma doesn't diminish from the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu in paraduma has to do exactly the same thing that you and I have to do in don't murder. And where do we get the koyach of doing that in don't murder? From Moshe Rabbeinu, because he also does it. So that's fine. But there's going to be a problem with this. We'll see. Okay?
Right up to Rabbi.
I was just thinking that myself. Where we got to a period after a bracket, as I recall. I'm trying to find it. I don't know where it is. I don't know why don't I remember where we got to yesterday?
The end of Tom.
Signs down. I think
Tom.
signs down.
In the after Tom, yes, thank you. Right, there's that period and there's that bracket. Not a parentheses, a bracket. Right, okay? Sixth, thank you. Sixth line down in the second paragraph in Shin Yud Zayin. Okay? And we've just said that all mitzvahs are both chayk and mishpat. And therefore, that's also, now the Rebbe is going to say what we've already said out loud. Va'al pi zeh. Sixth line, second word. Yuvan b'pashtus is understood simply. Shegam etzel Moshe lo haya choser chos v'sholom. Also by Moshe, it wasn't lacking chos v'sholom kiyum mitzvahs, the performance of mitzvahs, by from the chukas hakakti gezerah gezart. If it's a choik by one person and a mishpat by another person, so then by Moshe there's no choik. That's not true. Every mitzvah is a choik and a mishpat. That's what the rabbis taught us. So that by Moshe Rabbeinu, also every mitzvah is a choik and a mishpat. So Moshe Rabbeinu can be the source of you and I appreciating the choik of it all. And as a matter of fact, on an even deeper and more powerful level. Because Meila Moshe Rabbeinu could be the source of our ability to do the choik, the choik with a capital ches that we call a choik in the Torah, kashrus, shatnas, etc. That we could do that, but Kabbalah so. Moshe is also the source, and even more powerfully than us, because by Moshe he sees the chokhmah and everything. Also the source of our ability to see the chukas hakakti or gezeder gazarti, the Kabbalah soul in the mishpat also. And who but Moshe could teach us that? Because for Moshe, everything's a mishpat. And yet he's still holding by chukas hakakti or gezeder gazarti, he's still doing it with Kabbalah soul. Even though he understands everything to its absolute end, so to speak. Oh. This aspect, this is not mitzad the gavra, the person who might or might not understand. It's mitzad the essential reality of the mitzvah itself, what's called the heftzah, the object. The mitzvah contains within it ratzon and chokhmah. And therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu can be the source of my appreciation of the ratzon of mitzvahs. It's not just chokhmah. Aval. Now the Rebbe says, "Bir zeh tzarich lebir neisef." We require a greater explanation. Okay, before we ask the question, we get the answer. Say it one more time. All right, we saw it yesterday inside. We saw it today inside, and now, actually, we just saw it inside now. Yesterday we talked about it outside. the new understanding of Choik and Mishpat is that it's not a function of whether I understand or I don't understand. Every mitzvah is both a Choik and a Mishpat. There's the Ratzon of the mitzvah, which is L'mayla mitam v'das, beyond intellect, and there's the Mishpat of the mitzvah, which is the Chochmah of the mitzvah. There are mitzvahs where the Chochmah of the mitzvah does not descend down into this world, so human intellect doesn't understand it. Right? Okay. And therefore, we were wondering, so how can it be that Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that gives me the koyach to connect to that mitzvah, when for Moshe there is no such mitzvah, because Moshe was even, the Kadosh Baruch Hu revealed to Moshe the tam of paraduma. There was no choik for Moshe. And the answer to the question is no, every mitzvah is a choik and a mishpat. And therefore, every single Jew has the challenge to see the mishpat of every mitzvah, even paraduma. And the Rebbe told us what might be the tam of paraduma for us, the understanding that there is a tam. But I just don't know what it is. But that for us is the tam of paraduma. The very fact that I know there's a tam, the very fact that I know that it also resonates in Chokhmah. It's just only Chokhmah d'Atzilus. It's not Chokhmah d'Bria or Chokhmah of Yetzirah or Chokhmah of Asiyah, which is where I live. But there is a tam. So at least on that level, I can relate to the aspect of mishpat of paraduma. I don't know how it's a mishpat, but I know it is. Just banyan. Okay. Who does know what it is, Moshe? Anybody else? No. I always forget the lashon of the pasuk. The Shlomo Melech says, "Amarti echkama." I said, I will become wise for something shirachayka mimeni. I don't remember the next word. I apologize. Something it's rechayka mimeni. Like I don't remember. He realized, he uncovered, he found. I don't remember the next line, pasuk, the next word in the pasuk. But it was rechayka mimeni. It's too far from me. Meaning I could not understand paraduma. He tried. He thought that perhaps he could also reach the level of Chokhmah Fatzilus of Moshe Rabbeinu. He couldn't. Right? Everything else he understood. Very wise man. Right? He understood it so clearly that he could write a mushal about it all so that you and I can understand it. He wrote a book called Mishlim. Mushalim. Mushal after mushal after mushal after mushal after mushal. And to explain to you and I elokus, levels of elokus that he could see that we could only understand through a mushal because we don't see it like he sees it. Okay, so what a whole book for us. Right? Which was very kind of him. Right? Okay. But Moshe Rabbeinu knows that choik is also a mishpat, and his aveda is to see the choik in it, even though he also sees the mishpat in it, and therefore Moshe gives you and I the koyach to do the same relative to every mitzvah that we encounter. That we can also connect to the level of hukah hakakti, gezeda gezarti in every mitzvah. Even a mitzvah we understand. Certainly a mitzvah we don't understand. We're going to see, we talk about whether or not and that's going to come up right now, whether or not the intellect hides the rutzah. Does the intellect conceal the rutzah? So it might. Who gives me the power to overcome that? Moshe. Okay, that's our answer. But now the Rebbe says, well, but wait a minute. Bir zed, tzarech bir neisef. This answer requires a greater answer. This explanation requires a deeper explanation. And now the mimer starts. Ki yisaron the mitzvahs paraduma. The advantage of the mitzvah of paraduma, lagabe kol mitzvahs, relative to all of the mitzvahs, sheba kol mitzvahs. That's what we just said now is going to be said by the Rebbe. Sheba kol mitzvahs, all of the mitzvahs. Hatam shebehem mailim al ratzon. The reason of the mitzvah conceals the ratzon of the mitzvah. Meaning I'm overcome by the time of it. I'm more powerfully connected to the time of it. And it might be avoided to connect to the ratzon of it, to do it by Kabbalah soul. But mitzvah paraduma, what's unique about the mitzvah paraduma? She'ein aleha tam, that it doesn't have a tam, b'seichel adam, in normal human intellect. Therefore, what's the unique reality of paraduma? Ha'ratzon hu b'gilui. The will is revealed. That's all there is. There isn't any tam. There's only ratzon. There's no chokhmah. Relative to me. I'm still living with me. So I might know there's a tam, and the tam is shaykh to Mesha, but that tam has nothing to do with me. And so what I'm most powerfully connected to is the ratzon of it. So to kashrus. Why do you eat kosher food? God said so. God said eat kosher food. God said don't mix milk and meat. Why? Kacha. The same way we did with shatnez, we can also explain milk and meat on a ruchniistic level. But in Gashmias, don't. Why? Kacha. Kashrus is a chayk, right? Why do you eat a horse and you don't eat a cow? I'm sorry, the other way around. Yeah. Why do you not eat a horse and yes, eat a cow? Because God said so. Even you, every single, I don't mean even you because you're dumb. I mean, everybody, we all know the answer. What's the difference between a cow and a horse? You all know this if you ever learned any Tanya whatsoever. What's the difference between a cow and a horse? In Ruchnius. Oh, come on. Real life. This is from Klipas to Meis, and this is from Klipas Noiga. You all know this, right? It's just applied Chassidus, right? This comes from Klipas to Meis. This comes from a level of Klipa that can't be elevated. This comes from Klipas Noiga, a level of Klipa that can be elevated. So I can eat the cow and I can't eat the horse. Tanya, Aleph base. And it's, in all fairness, it's part of Tanya we've all seen. Okay. That's not Gashmias. That's Ruchnias, right? Klipa isn't Gashmias. Klipa is the Ruchniistic source of the Gashmiistic thing. So that answer is in Eilam Yetzira, Eilam Abriya, I don't know where it is. It's not in Eilam Hazar Gashmi. You can't take a cow and a horse into a laboratory and figure out how this is better to eat than this. I mean, you might say it's better to eat because it might be horses might have less meat and cows have more meat, and it might be more reasonable to eat this than that. Okay, but we're not talking about more reasonable. We're talking about what's mutter and what's also.
Yeah, but Mr. Ed could talk.
He could talk. Right?
You know I had to say that.
I know.
Sorry.
There must have been a cow somewhere that people made talk somewhere. Right? Okay. Right? And in the old days, I assume it's not the case anymore, but in the old days, there was always that rumor that what was McDonald's using, right? Okay, that's what they were saying. True, not true, I don't know. But, that's what they were saying. It wasn't cow. Okay. And there's no reason for a non-Jew not to eat a horse? No prohibition. Right? In China, what do they say? They'll eat anything that flies except a plane, and anything with 4 legs except a table. That's what they say. Evidently, they eat everything. Pashut everything. That if you go to have you ever been there? I don't know. I've never been there. No, I've never been there. They say if you go in the market, it's every imaginable creature that it's all there.
Rats.
Never been, but I see pictures.
Everything. It's all there. It's all there. If you like grasshoppers, so you can go watch a baseball game in Seattle and they'll serve you grasshoppers.
Oh.
Yeah.
Chocolate covered?
I don't know. I think they're salted. Heathens, Pashut heathens. But that's, I feel bad because I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. It's a nice place, but okay. Crummy team also. Okay. Maybe one has to do with the other.
Oh.
So in Paraduma, the Ratzon is Begilui. That's all there is. It's only Ratzon. Upedish Zeis, chukas atara, and the Pedish of the brackets, the Pedish of Zeis chukas atara, shekol mitzvahs atara, heim chuka kamei Paraduma. Right? That's what we've been saying the whole time. Paraduma is the prototype of Hoik. Well, what problem is that before we see the Rebbe say it, maybe we can, think about it. If not, say it. I assume the first time I learned the Maimar, I didn't think about it either. Right? But what problem though has just arisen? Paraduma is the prototypical Hoik. There's no difference between Paraduma and any other mitzvah. Meshach Rabbeinu understands Paraduma. So why is paraduma any different than any other mitzvah? You and I don't understand it, but we just said that that's not the point. The point isn't that you and I don't understand it. The point is that the mitzvah has two aspects, choik and mishpat, ratzon and seichel. Is that true about murder? Yeah. That's equally true about paraduma. So now why is paraduma so... chukas. This is so unique and so special and so amazing. And especially, you'll say, because it's different to us. Okay, but hold on a second. Who are we talking about here? Talking about Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is no difference between paraduma and giving tzedakah. So, we've backed ourselves into the corner we tried to get out of. Let's see, that's what the Rebbe is going to say to us.
But how many of us can reach?
But Moshe is the source for us, but by Moshe there's no difference. So therefore, Be'etzim, there's no difference between them. Moshe's truth. So then, why is paraduma singled out as something unique? The fact that you and I don't understand, Beseder, you and I don't understand. I don't understand anything. Moshe Rabbeinu understands everything. So from Moshe Rabbeinu's point of view, we just said as follows. Our answer was as follows. Our answer to the question, before we came to this part, our answer to the question was, every mitzvah has a chayk and a mishpat. Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who understands even the tam of paraduma, but that doesn't in any way, shape, or form diminish his ability to be the source of our Kabbalah's O, of our going beyond tam v'das. Even for him, that level beyond tam v'das is something that doesn't relate to mitzvahs, because there is no beyond tam v'das relative to mitzvahs by Moshe, because he knows the tam of every mitzvah, even paraduma. But he can still be the source of our Kabbalah's O, because for all of us, every mitzvah has the aspect of ratzon and the aspect of tam, the aspect of will, the aspect of seichel, the aspect of chayk, the aspect of mitzvah, of mishpat. I'm sorry. Every mitzvah has that. Moshe, more than anybody, is the one who has, to put it in crass terms, developed and perfected the ability to see the ratzon even when there's a seichel.
So without
and what's the prototype of all that? Paraduma. Paraduma is the same as stucco for Moshe Rabbeinu.
But without that paraduma, then the paraduma allows us to see in all the mishpatim that there is a chok in it.
I don't know, you're giving an answer to the question. That might be the answer to the question, but you're answering a question.
Oh.
So that doesn't mean the question's not a question. That might be the answer to the question. I don't know. It's not, but it might be. Right? But all you're doing is giving an answer to the question. The fact that I have an answer doesn't mean there's not a question. There are questions that once I get an answer, so then there's no longer a question. If you would ask me how to get to the gas station from here, because I don't know, if you tell me take a left when you walk out and you can't miss it, so now I don't have a question. But if you would ask me how can it be if God's all good, there's evil in the world, even if I give you an answer, that doesn't mean there's not a question. There's still a question. I just have an answer. But there might be 30 answers. Right? So there is going to be a question. Right? So you decided you have an answer to the question. But that doesn't annul the question. But I don't know whether that's the answer to the question. Right? We'll see. But the question's a fascinating question. We haven't seen it in the mimer yet, but later we know we're going there. Paraduma is no different than any other mitzvah. Be'etzem. Right? It's not special. Every mitzvah is a chayk and a mishpat. So paraduma is more powerfully that just because you and I don't understand it. But we're getting the koyach to appreciate that from Moshe Rabbeinu, and by Moshe Rabbeinu there's stuck no difference. No, nothing unique about paraduma for Moshe Rabbeinu. It's interesting. So is there? I don't know, we'll see. Page says chukas Kol mitzvah satarim chuka k'mei paraduma umizeh shenem v'yichu elecha. By virtue of the fact that it says v'yichu elecha, we should take to you. And what do we learn from that? The para nikras al shmei shel Moshe, that the para is called Moshe's para. That was the first line we learned in the Maimer. Rashi on that pasuk. And we asked why. Mashma the inyan miyuchad shebemitzvahs paraduma, that unique characteristic of paraduma. Shachuka shaba, that the chayk of it, which is ratzon l'mayla mitam, that level of will which is beyond intellect, hu begilui, that's so powerfully expressed by paraduma, and paraduma is whose mitzvah more than anybody else, so to speak? Moshe's para. That's not relevant to Moshe in any way, shape, or form. Right? Hu gam legave Moshe. That theoretically should be my Moshe. That the sign of this mitzvah is so powerfully expressed. More than any other mitzvah. And but this is Moshe's mitzvah. So Rashi said, Paras Moshe, it's always going to be connected to Moshe. And as a matter of fact, the Rebbe didn't talk about it much in the Mimer, but it's talked about in other places. We know this is a halacha. The Rambam talks about in Hilchos Paraduma. Every Paraduma had to have some of the afer, some of the dust from Moshe Rabbeinu's para, from the first one. And it wasn't really Moshe Rabbeinu's para, right? Because Elazar Kohen did it, but Moshe commanded it, and the command is like giving is in the Nesidas Kayach for it all. And we learned that from the fact that the 10th para, the Rambam says, comes from Mashiach, and Mashiach doesn't do it because he's from Shevet Yehuda, but he gives the Kayach to the Kohen to do it. Why? Because he commands him to do it. Same way HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you and I Kayach to do what we do because he commands us to do it. So the fact that the Eibusher commands us to put on tefillin gives us Kayach to put on tefillin. And if he didn't command us, we obviously we wouldn't do it. But if there were such a thing, it would be much more difficult for us to do because he didn't command me to do. So I wouldn't have to Nesinas Kayach. Okay, all of that. Well, the Rebbe says, since Moshe knew the reason for Paro, we're only talking about Moshe. By you and I, there's a chiluk. There's a difference between paraduma and don't murder. But by Moshe, there's no difference between paraduma and stalker, murder, and anything else. Why is that? Paras Moshe. And Moshe gives us the kayach to do. You could say stuck as Moshe, it's all the same. What does it make? By Moshe. And he's the kayach for you and I to do it. You could pick any mitzvah. Why dafka paradum? So now, up until we learned this mimer, we would assume paradum is unique. Paradum is the mitzvah where there's no tam whatsoever, and so not only is there no tam, there's hepech tam, as we learned, right? That it's the exact opposite of what you think. The people involved in the Torah become tameh, and the person who was tameh becomes Torah. Again, not the mazen, not the one who sprinkles. He does not become tameh, which is just the sichas the Rebbe, and that's just an important point. It happened to be last week there was sichas, so it's current events. So I have a question. How is paradum any different from Moshe than anything else? Such that it's paras Moshe, and we learn from that all that we learn about the Nesinas Kayach we get from Moshe, the chukas hakakti. You could pick any mitzvah. It would be the same by him. Okay, that's the basic question. In order to answer that question, the answer to that question is going to be at the end of the mimer. Before we answer the question, the Rebbe is going to teach us something about Moshe Rabbeinu, which is really quite astounding. Let's go back to it. This can be understood based on what is said, Kapitel Tzadik, Tefillah L'Moshe, which was the Rebbe's Kapitel, and Nun Aleph Nun Beis, which was a song that everybody loved a lot. And why? I don't know why everybody liked it. I think everybody liked it because it's a great niggun. But my personal recollection is how much the Rebbe liked that niggun. Every time we'd start to sing that niggun in Farbrengen, the Rebbe just, I don't know, the Rebbe loves, I don't know how that works, but the Rebbe just seemed to love that niggun. There was such energy in that room singing that niggun. The Rebbe just loved the niggun. I wasn't around so long that I saw the 45 different nigunim or whatever, but at that niggun, the Rebbe just, it was so obvious how much the Rebbe loved that niggun. And it's interesting how it stuck. It's not like we're singing the niggun from the year before, the year after, right? That niggun stuck. Everybody still sings it. It's a great niggun, but the Rebbe loved that niggun. So that was Tefillah L'Moshe. Now, interesting enough, that's what the Rebbe is saying when he's saying this minor. The Rebbe is saying that kapitel this year, Tafshin Nun Aleph, not when he said the mimer, when he edited the mimer. Okay. Now he edited the mimer twice. I take that back. He edited both Yud Beis Tammuz Maimarim that year, Tafshin Nun Aleph. right? What were those two? So we talked about this at the beginning when we started learning the Maimer. There were two Maimer. This Maimer is because the Rebbe said on Shabbos. Not into a microphone, obviously, right? No, it's different because the Rebbe then for Brendan, your based on was in the microphone, so it was recorded, etc. And that Maimer is the Yud Aleph Nisan Maimer for Tafshin Yud Aleph Tfilah L'Meisha. Right, because on Yud Aleph Nisan, the Rebbe often would say a Maimer explaining the Kapitel Tehillim that he's going to start saying that day, right? Okay, so on Yud Aleph Nisan, the Rebbe said the Rebbe gave out an edited version of Tfilah L'Meisha, right here. Kuntras Yud Aleph Nisan Tafshin Nun Aleph Shnas Hatzadik Leiladis Kodesh Admar Shlita, the 90th year, meaning the Rebbe is 89, so he's starting to say Kapitel Tzadi. And so what does the Maimer start with? What are the first words of the Maimer? Tfilah L'Meisha Ish Eloki. That Maimer, that's what the Rebbe said on Yud Beis Tammuz that year. Right? So now it's very, very interesting, because the Rebbe is about to say a mini Maimer on Tfilah L'Meisha now, Yud Beis Tammuz, that year. Again, Tavshin Chaf Tes. The Rebbe said the Maimer in 5729, 1969. So that had nothing to do with Kapitel Tzadi. Right? But the Rebbe edited the Maimer in Tafshin Ben Aleph, the Rebbe was saying Kapitel Tzadi. So on Yud Aleph Nisan, the Rebbe gave out the second Maimer that the Rebbe said that Yud Beis Tammuz. Because at the big Farbrengen, with the microphone and all sorts of people coming in from all over the place, that Farbrengen, the Rebbe said the Maimer Tfilah L'Meisha. That was the second Maimer the Rebbe said in Yud Beis Tammuz that year. This is the first Maimer. In the first Maimer, interesting enough, the Rebbe has a whole discussion about Tfilah L'Meisha. Right? Then 2 days later, the Rebbe said a whole Maimer about the union of Tfilah L'Meisha, and went even further into the issues that he discusses here. V'yuven ze b'hagdim. We will understand this by first understanding Mashakosav Tfilah L'Meisha. Meisha's prayer. The Isa B'Zeir. Shetfilah L'Meisha Tfilas Osher. That the Tfilah of Meisha is Tfilas Osher. The Tfilah of the rich one. There's Tfilah L'Meisha, Tfilah L'David, and Tfilah L'Chabakuk. Tfilah L'David is Tfilas Ani, the poor one. Meisha is called Tfilas Osher. So that is what the Rebbe is going to explain. What's Tfilas Osher?
Why is David Tfilas Ani?
David's Malchus. David's Malchus, shiftless. The lowest level. Relative you and I, David Melch is Melech, and so he's Ram V'Nisa, but in terms of spheres, David's sphere of Malchus. David's whole koyach is shiftless, lowliness. Ulahayr, Mimasha Kosev Krek Dishmei Chami Admar. Hashem, we can talk about the Frierdiker Rebbe at Yud Beis Tammuz. Baal HaGeula, the one whose Geula we are celebrating today, because again, this is a Yud Beis Tammuz Maimer. We're not learning it because it's a Yud Beis Tammuz Maimer, but the Hashgacha Pratis is nice. B'sichasei HaYadua, in his well-known Sicha, where he talked about the inyan of Tfilas Osher. Shamizmar Tfilah L'Meisha Shayach LaGeula D'Yutes Kislev. That this Mizmar is Shayach to Yutes Kislev. Why? You think why it might be Shayach to Yutes Kislev? I know it's an annoying question. It happens to be the first kapitel that we say on Yutes Shevachodesh. It's the 19th day of the month begins with kapitel Tzadi. Tzadi through Tzadi Vav. That's what we say on the 19th. So that means the Alter Rebbe was saying this on Yud Kislev when he got out of jail. What kapitel Tehillim is it that we talk about most on Yud Kislev? Because the Rebbe was saying that also. It's at the days of the week. But the B'Shala, right? That's the song, right? Why is that the song we sing on Yud Kislev? We also sing it on Yud Kislev. Sing it on Yud Kislev because the Mitzvah Rebbe was saying it when he got out of jail because it's the kapitel Shayach to Yud Shevachodesh, which we just said 2 days ago, right? The Alter Rebbe was saying it because it was Shayach to the third day of the week, because Tehillim is not only divided up into 30 parts relative to the month. It's also divided up into 7 parts relative to each day of the week. It's also divided into 5 parts relative to each of the Chumshei Torah, which you say on Shabbos and Vorchim. Okay, but there's also Tehillim is divided up into 7 parts. A friend of mine was told by the Rebbe to not only say that Tehillim is shaykh to the month, but also that Tehillim is shaykh to the week. And so he says Tehillim twice every day. He says Tehillim to the month like all of us, and then he also says much more, because you're saying you're saying 20 some odd chapters every day, because 150 divided by 7. So the feed a week. So the Alter Rebbe is also saying Pada B'Shalom. It's the 3rd day of the week. He got out on a Tuesday. So he was saying Pada B'Shalom mitzad Tehillim of the week, but he was also saying Tefillah L'Meisha mitzad the Tehillim of the month, which is interesting. No one ever really talks about it. I mean, the Friedrich Rebbe talked about it, so we talk about it because he did. Right? So the Friedrich Rebbe says, Shamizmar Tefillah L'Meisha shayach LaGeula de Yud Tes Kislev. Shayach to the Geula of Yud Tes Kislev. You do it. Shadmar Zokan Haya Eimer B'chol Yom, as is known, the Alter Rebbe said every day, Shi'ur Tehillim, the Tehillim of that day, Kamesha Nechlak Limei Chodesh, as is divided up in days of the month. V'keiv and Shamizmar Tefillah L'Meisha, since this chapter of Tehillim, Hu has Cholas Shi'ur Tehillim Achodshi the Yom Yud Tes L'Chodesh, since this is the chapter that is the beginning of the daily Tehillim relative to dividing up Tehillim equally throughout the month. So it's the day of Yud Tes. Hare Amar b'Yom Geula Yud Tes Kislev Mizmar Zeh. So he said, Tefillah L'Meisha on Yud Tes Kislev. And now the Rebbe is going to say, the Mizem Muvan Shemizmar Zeh Shayach Gam L'Geula Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz. Obviously Shayach to Yud Beis and Yud Gimel Tammuz. Why? Well, because Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz, the days of the Friedrich Rebbe's Geula are very, very powerfully connected to Yud Tes Kislev. And as a matter of fact, the Rebbe says that on a certain level they're even more powerful than Yud Tes Kislev. We'll talk tonight about the fact that those were the 2 Verbrengens that were on a certain level were the most lebendig Verbrengens all year long. Those are the Verbrengens where the Rebbe was the Rebbe's always giving energy on a level that's beyond anything imaginable. But those 2 days were days where the Verbrengens were, very special. What? Yud Tes Kislev and Yud Beis Tammuz. Those Verbrengens. HaGeula de Nasi Doreni Mamala Makayim Shel Bala Geula de Yud Tes Kislev. Right? The Geula of the Rebbe of our generation, who is the one who filled the place of the Bala Geula, the one whose redemption happened on Yud Tes Kislev, when the Alter Rebbe got out of jail. Okay, tonight in the Verbrengen we'll talk about the story of just the history of Gimel Tammuz and Yud Beis Tammuz at the beginning of the Verbrengen, so people have to understand, why are we sitting here? Right? The pneumius of it, we have to understand the goof before we understand the neshama of it all. Ubefrat, and particularly b'shana zeh, this year, which is so much the Rebbe, right? That everything is even more powerfully connected. Now, you'll say, okay, what do you mean this year? The Rebbe is saying this Maimer in Tafshin Chav Tes. Aha! Okay. What's that about? Well, anybody know when the Friedrich Rebbe was born? Tafresh Mem. 5640. Yud Beis Tammuz. 5640 to 5729 is how many years? Yud Beis Tammuz 5729. When the Rebbe said this minor, it was what birthday of the Friedrich Rebbe? 89. What kapitel did the Friedrich Rebbe start saying on that day? 90. Tefillah L'Meisha. It's all making sense now. That's why the Rebbe is talking about it in the Maimer in Tafshin Chav Tes. The Rebbe is talking about Tefillah L'Meisha because it's the kapitel of the Friedrich Rebbe that year. Right? The Rebbe edited these Maimarim in Tafshin and Aleph when it was the Rebbe's kapitel. Okay, cool. Okay, let's just finish the paragraph. No tachnun today, so you get the God is kind to you. You see, you have a long tachnun that is not said today. So there you go. I'm very excited. Very excited. Av the befker nichale. The Evid's always happy when they tell him to do less. Hine. In Yonai v'teikne the mizmor zeh. Sunday there's no chassidus, right? Okay, because it's an off Shabbos. Sunday there's no chassidus. Monday there is chassidus. It just has to end early. But Sunday there's no class because it's an off Shabbos, and so there's no chassidus after an off Shabbos in the summer. Okay.
What's going on Monday?
Monday there's a tiyul, I think, and I think you're leaving at 10 o'clock, so they want chassidus to end at 8:15, and we'll daven early, and then you're going on. I think you're going. Where are you going? Going down south? Or no, you're going somewhere.
So some people are going to go to the Nova Festival site.
Okay. So V'hine. In Yonai v'techne, the mizmar zeh, the content of this kapitel Tehillim, who tefila l'meisha, is the tefila of Meisha. The inyanim abayim behemshech hamizmar, these things that come in a continuation of the mizmar, la'achrei atevis tefila l'meisha ish elokim, after the words tefila l'meisha ish elokim. Now there is something very interesting about the edited mimer that was edited 6 months before, well not 6, 3 months. 3 months before this mimer for Yud Aleph Nisan. If you look in the unedited, you can listen to it, right? Because that's the mimer the Rebbe said during the week. So we have a tape of it. You can hear. The Rebbe explains many of the words after Tefillah L'Meisha, Ish Elokim. The Rebbe explains the continuation of the Mizmar. In the edited mimer, none of that's there. The Rebbe edited that out. That's not part of what the Rebbe was really interested in talking about in the edited mimer. But in the actual mimer that the Rebbe says, the Rebbe explains, not here, not in Yud Beis Tammuz on Shabbos. No, because this is a parenthetical mimer. But when the Rebbe 2 days later said the mimer on Mizmor on the Tefillah L'Meisha, so the Rebbe actually explains, you can hear it. The Rebbe explains all sorts of different aspects of the things said after Tefillah L'Meisha Ish Elokim. Right? Not in the mimer. Not in the Mugadik mimer. In the mimer the Rebbe said, it's there. Not in the edited mimer. That's what editing is about, right? La'achrei tevis tefillah Meisha Ish Elokim. Heminyonim shemeisha amram betfilasa. These are the things that Meisha said in his tefillah. This is the first of the, 10 mizmarim that Meisha Rabbeinu said that were written in Tehillim. Inyonim pratim, individual things. Aval inyonim kloli. So interesting enough, again, the Rebbe is paying heed to the fact that there are inyonim klolim, and when the Rebbe is going to talk about them in 2 days, these inyonim pratim, these individual things about the tefillah. But here, just talking about the general idea. Aval inyonim kloli the mizmar, the basic idea of this mizmar. Shehu gam shmeya mizmar. That's also the name of it. Tefillah l'meisha, tefillah l'meisha. The tefillah l'meisha, tefillah's osher. The tefillah of the one who's rich. Umizem muvan. From this is understood. Shashaychus the mizmar lagulat yud beis kislev yud beis tammuz hu. The ikar is the relevance of this mizmar to both yud beis kislev and yud beis tammuz is beikar essentially mitzad inyan klolos mizmar, the general reality of the mizmar. Tefillah l'meisha, tefillah's osher. Could come and say Yud Gimels, we'll explain later in the mimer, but at this point we're going to start explaining Tefillah L'Meisha. Now, so you'll know where we're going, because it's a long time between when we're going to actually get there and now. There's a problem with the notion of Tefillah L'Asher. All right, and this the Rebbe is going to explain it in great length and in quite an astounding fashion. Tefillah is something that one does when one is lacking something. The Rebbe is going to show us very clearly that when we say usher, we mean usher be'etzim, someone who is essentially an ashir, someone rich, and we're specifically talking about Moshe Rabbeinu, who lacks nothing. So then what's his tefillah? What is Moshe davening? Because Moshe lacks nothing, neither in Gashmias nor in Ruchnias. And the Rebbe will show us very clearly how an asher is someone who lacks nothing. Like la'aloch. from the laws of tzedakah. That the Medrash says, based on the pasuk, that you have to Dei mechzuk sheyachsalai. You give him what he's lacking, that which he is lacking, or the double language. So we're told that what? That you give the poor person that which he is lacking in terms of his basic needs. Asher yachsalai, that which is lacking to him. What if he was someone who was used to having a car and a shofar? A sus ve'eved. Right? He has a sus lirkei v'lav ve'eved larutz lefanav. He has a horse to ride and an eved, a servant running in front of him. And you should provide him with that. And then the Medrash says, but you're not obligated to make him rich. So that means someone who has a chauffeur and a limousine is not rich. That's not called rich. Okay, so then what is rich? So the Rebbe is going to show us, based on that Medrash, that rich means you're lacking nothing. So then why is he davening? That's what we have to figure out. What's the feel of that person?
Does that relate to and I think it's in Atat Tzava, where it says Moshe, what Moshe was really not lacking anything, so what did the Jewish people bring to him to elevate him? And was that they reached a higher level?
Well, that one, what you're saying is true, that's talked about not at 7, not so much in the context of Moshe not lacking, just in terms of explaining what the idea of V'yikoi Lecho, what are they bringing here?
Right.
That we are able to elevate Moshe
Right.
somehow.
Right.
Yeah. It wasn't so much that he wasn't lacking. Here we're going to talk about the fact that he's not lacking, so why is he davening?
Okay.
Right there, you're right. It's talking about the fact that we do give him something.
But this is a different kind
Yeah,
of
we'll see. It's a different.
Okay.
It's very similar, but very different.
We got to the end of stage dowry.
No, just now. Where did we get to?
We got to the middle. I just want to mark the middle mark.
Yeah, we got to the end of the end of Ozdam. Yeah.
That's one side figure.
Sure, thank you. Wait, what's going on here? There we go.